What would you say is the number one reason why people fail? Not necessarily why they make it, the complete opposite.
Right, lack of brains, lack of effort.
Mark Cuban says the number one reason why most businesses fail is lack of brains and lack of effort. That's all great and good, but what does it look like to work smarter and harder on your business? You know that you should, but what should you be working on? I have one framework of 5 phases, different phases you're in the business, and the key activity of each phase. Chances are, if you're working dumb on your business, it's because you're doing the work of a phase that is not the phase your business is in. Or if you are putting a lot of effort in and not getting results, or you're not putting a lot of effort in and not getting results, it's because you're not doing enough of the core activity for the phase that you are in. Hi, I'm Alec from EasierHabits.com, and I coach overthinking entrepreneurs in how to turn their anxiety, overwhelm, and procrastination into unstoppable execution. The goal of these 5 phases is to go through them, focus on one at a time. You may be in more than one at a time, but you can't focus on more than one at a time. And nail the activity, the key activity for that phase so that you can move on to the next phase with confidence rather than jumping back and forth between them. In the long run, this will save you time. A lot of people end up with failures at the time where it's time to market and sell their product, for example, because they didn't do earlier phases. And the trying to market and sell and develop your product at the same time while do other phases of the business, that can spread you so thin that you just completely wash out. So you will save at least twice your time, maybe many more times. This may be the difference between success and washing out for you, is being able to focus your activities on the right phase for your business. So a little teaser and overview. These phases are phase 1, the phase that pisses entrepreneurs off on Reddit. Phase 2, the phase you skip because you think you know it and you're wrong. Phase 3, the phase where you overwork instead of overthink. Phase 4, the phase that entrepreneurs both desire and fear. And phase 5, the phase you try and get other people to do because you think it's boring. So phase 1 is the vision stage, crafting your vision. This is the phase that pisses entrepreneurs off on Reddit. All right, short story. There's a Entrepreneur Wednesday where people ask questions. There's a lot of people who ask questions like, what business should I start? And there's a lot of great business-related answers. But the problem is if you start a business that you have no connection to, it is going to be painful the entire way. And maybe you push through it and end up with a company you don't like, and maybe you're lucky enough to sell it. Maybe you just drop it like a hot potato and take it as a learning experience or whatever. But that's going to be a lot of time and investment for something that doesn't emotionally resonate with you. Plus, if you start a business where you have no vision and no excitement behind it personally, it's going to be that much harder to sell it to other people. Also, when you're networking later to try and find opportunities or partnerships, you're not going to be able to network as effectively. And the people that you're networking with won't be as interesting to you because they're in an industry that you don't have any excitement or vision around. So this really will affect every area of your business. Now, when I post something in the Reddit thread like, hey, maybe you should think about what matters to you, journal about what you enjoy doing the most, what you would do if you weren't paid, what your ideal day is like, or where you want to be 5 years in the future, what that day wants to, what you want that day to look like, what kind of impact do you want to have in the world, what obituaries, what do you want to hear in your obituary or at your funeral, etc. That's a little bit morbid, but those are all different ways to get out what matters to you, and that can help you craft your vision. Now, when I post that in a thread, people say, get out of here, you say snake oil salesman, STFU. Literally, yes, STFU, I get that. For saying that you should, if you're going to invest a lot of time and energy into a company, it should be something that actually matters to you. I don't know why that is so controversial. I feel like there's just some bitter people who went out to make money, hate themselves, are on such a tight wire that they swear at people on the internet for fun. But regardless, a lot of people don't look at this as a business step. But like I said, it's foundational. It's foundational not only to work-life balance and feeling good, but to being able to sell and market your product later on. Also, if you have a vision for your product, you're much more likely to be able to empathize and identify your potential audiences. So this is critical. Now, you are in this phase if you are not excited about work, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, or you hate what you do, right? All of those things. I would say you may still be in this phase even if you like what you do, but you can't clearly articulate what it is about your work that gets you excited. And so the core activity of this phase, the vision phase, is really experience and journaling. You want to try things out and see if they work for you. Journal, refine. I have another video, I can link to that, where I talk about really finding who I was as a coach. Before I became a coach, I tried that out and realized, okay, that is a path that I want to go. I just volunteered to start coaching people for free in different areas, found that some areas resonated with me more than others. While I was being a coach during the early phases, and still to this day, I have an accountability partner that I talk through my week with, and when things aren't working or when they are, I have been refining who I am as a coach in conversation with them. And I also do a weekly journal. So all of these things are core activities. What you want for volume is volume of things tried. Try lots of engagements, shorter if you can, rather than getting locked into one thing. If you're young and you have lots of time, great, go for an internship. If not, you can shadow other people, interview people. But if you interview them, don't just ask what their ideal day is like. Ask what their actual schedule looks like, what are the biggest challenges, etc. So those are the type of experience and information gathering things that you want to be doing, and you want to be journaling this, synthesizing this into, why does this matter to me? What impact is it going to have? Why am I excited about that? And you should be able to get a 1 or 2 sentence phrase that really resonates, where you feel, yes, that is it. For me, it's really just 3 core activities that I want to be doing. I want to be helping other people grow, I want to be telling stories, and I want to be exploring. And as simple as that is, I realize if I have that in my business, I'm good to go. And all of my coaching stuff aligns with that. Some initiatives with one piece of that more than other, but all of them really touch on it at some point. And I try and involve those things to some extent in each activity. It makes a huge difference in my enthusiasm for the work, as well as how well I resonate with people I coach. So that is phase 1, the vision. You have nailed it. If you have that 1 or 2 sentence phrase that clearly articulates why you're excited to be doing the work that you're doing. In the case of my mission statement, it's a series of values, but it could be impact. Your vision could be the impact that you want to have, mission statement, a need you want to address, you feel strongly about. It could be anything. And this isn't literally what you're going to market, but for example, with my mission statement, I know that it's about growth. And for me, growth is daily habits. That's why my company is Easier Habits. And I know that, for instance, using this mission statement and my understanding of growth, is that my message is going to resonate the most with people who actually believe that habits can transform their lives. And especially with people who like to explore, are typically people who have a hard time with habits. They like novel things, they don't like routine. And so that is one of the ways that I can identify a market. This can bleed over into my marketing and sales materials, where I can talk about, love to try new things, have a hard time sticking with things. Here's the, free routine that is easy to keep, that will skyrocket your business and give you the chance to explore new and impactful opportunities in your business or something. I mean, that's just off the top of my head, but I know who I am, and knowing who I am, I can find ways to market that to other people, and I know better who to market to. So this step is skipped by almost everyone. Some people consider it even not a step of starting a business, but it makes everything else so much better. Phase 2, the phase you skip because you think you know it and you're wrong, is market research. People skip this in one of 2 ways typically. 1, they think, I am in my target audience, or I am my target audience, so I don't need to do market research. I'm going to build the product. I'm good. Bye. This is the wrong approach, because for a couple of reasons. 1, you don't know if the problem that you have or the use case that you have is general, right? So you might build something that's perfect for you, but you don't know what aspects of it other people actually resonate with. And so when you build your product and go to sell it, it fails because you don't have a general use case, or you don't know where to find other people like you, right? You exist, you ought to be able to find other people like you, but that can be harder than you think. For instance, an example from Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, yoga for rock climbers, right? You might like yoga, you might like rock climbing, you might wish you had the perfect yoga routine for rock climbing. But if you can't actually find the people who like both, not just the people who like yoga or the people who like rock climbing, then maybe that is not an easy enough audience to target, even if it exists, right? And then a third reason why being your own target audience is not sufficient market research is that you are going to think about your product like a business producer rather than a consumer of business products. And so you don't know what values resonate with other people, what offers resonate. And so you want to get into the actual market research and see how other people, rock climbers and yoga people, are evaluating their paid physical exercise routines so that you know what to build into your program and what to sell it on. So just being your own niche or your own target audience is not enough. Another thing people will do to basically skip market research is they just ask a couple people, like, here's my business idea. And if people seem encouraging, they go for it. Bad news, people will encourage you to do your product just because they want to be encouraging, not because they actually want to buy it. And this is even true of like focus groups where you pay people to come in and tell you about their a product and like give you feedback on your product. So you can learn interesting things for it, but like famously, people who say they would buy in a focus group, if you like catch them on the way out in the parking lot and say, here's the actual product, will you pay for it? They will famously say no, even if they said yes, they would buy it in their focus group. So that is not a good way to really gauge intent. So don't skip this phase. You are in this phase if you cannot find specific individuals in your target audience and give them an offer that resonates. It doesn't have to be a product, right? You could say if you for rock climbing and yoga, for example, that product, if you could talk to a rock climber and say, yeah, you know how you're so sore after climbing this, like this and this part of your body is sore. Wouldn't it be great if there were like a 10-minute routine you could do that could, you know, erase the soreness in 2 days or something like that? Whatever that offer would be. You don't have a product, what you have is an offer, and you can see whether that resonates. At a minimum, if you're talking to people in person, you will see some physical state change. So their posture, they might be sitting up or leaning towards you or making more eye contact. They might be asking you more questions or spontaneously sharing use cases or applications from their own life. Those are things that indicate that it resonates to some degree, but the best test is actually whether people take action. Will they sign up, for example, for some sort of email list or wait list? Or if you hand out a video for people to watch, do people actually end up visiting that video, etc.? Those would be different ways you could measure someone, like an offer actually resonating enough for people to take action. And if you can't find people that will take action, then building a product is a waste, because whether the product works, if you can't get them to act on an offer, why build it in the first place? So this is why market research is key. So you're in this if you can't find a specific person and give them an offer that resonates. Your core activities are, one, thinking through who your target audience is and then validating it. So the thinking through, that is asking questions. I will do a more in-depth video specifically on market research questions you should ask. Pro tip, think about your target audience as one specific individual, and I'll show you why this helps. So think about the problem they have. Then imagine your individual target audience member having that problem. When do they have that problem, right? And so you're imagining not just yoga people in general, but you're imagining specifically, for example, all right, this is someone who just climbed Saturday, did an intense climb, and Sunday, right when they get out of bed, they can feel that their arms and legs and back are super sore. And that's when they have the problem. All right. Now, see how this is really specific rather than just like yoga people who also like to rock climb. We're diving into like the actual day and environment and visualizing this person. Like, what is it they do when they get up, right? How do they cope with it? What is working or not working for them? So, for example, if I know that when they feel soreness the next day, that's when they have their problem, well, then I would look in what's their morning routine. Are there morning shows that they listen to, or websites that they go to in the morning, Sunday morning, etc. What are they doing Sunday morning? Because, for example, this is just one insight or one application of that insight of their routine, would be if I can advertise on a show they listen to in the morning when they're just sore from rock climbing, they're so much more likely to buy a yoga routine for rock climbers to help combat soreness, right? And so that's why being specific matters. So you want to know what their problem is, when they have it, how they try and solve it right now, what's working and not working about their current solutions. And you should actually know whether this target audience has bought stuff in the past. So there's a big difference between someone who has a problem and uses free stuff all the time to solve it. So the core activities for market research are creating your hypothetical avatar, your theory, your hypothesis for an avatar, and then going and validating it. You want to go online, talk to people in person, and look for a few different things. You want to find confirmation of what you have. You also want to look for things that contradict that. Is there any reason why this might not be a good avatar? For instance, do they not buy products or services in this area, etc.? So you want to look for disconfirmation. You also want to look for new opportunities that you hadn't considered. You've nailed this phase if you can find specific members of your target audience and articulate some general offer or some prospect that excites them. Again, it doesn't have to be the product. It could just be if someone solved this problem in this way, or that only took this amount of time, or etc. Wouldn't that be great? And then if that's exciting enough that people are willing to go watch a video, sign up to a mailing list, etc., then you've actually got something that is marketable. So phase 3, the phase where you overwork instead of overthink, is product development. And here is, to be honest, where a lot of people start. They start just building their product or service. And they often do it wrong in a way that consumes tons of money and extra time. So product development, phase 3, you are in it. If you already have an offer that resonates, but you don't have a product that is positively reviewed that people want and need. So I'll get into what that specifically looks like in the You've Nailed It section. But if you don't have happy customers, then you don't have a successful product. You should be focusing on product development unless you are in one of the earlier phases and focusing on that. So the core activities for product development are generally speaking, lean or MVP approaches to products. Now, here's where people go wrong with product development the most. They want to build a big product to solve all the things. Let me give you an example from Silicon Valley. So there's one company that spent 9 months of development around and hired whole teams, millions of dollars, on a new textbook solution product that launched to middling success. It did make some money, but overall it was losing money, and people didn't know why. So the reason why is because they built a solution for multiple types of questions in multiple textbooks in multiple genres. It was too big. What they did, because it was too generic and too spread out, while it was somewhat different than other textbook answer solutions, it wasn't, none of those was a home run. None of those things was a home run. And so people weren't using it. Now, what they should have done to save months and millions of dollars is start with one type of question from the most popular math textbook. For example, do multiple choice in the most popular math textbook. In fact, just do a chapter of it, right? Anything that would get you enough traffic to test it, and test that in the wild. And make that work and make that be amazing, make that worth people sharing that with their friends, etc., rather than just having people look visually like, oh yeah, the UI looks okay. Completely different testing. So you want to keep your tests minimal so you don't invest a lot of time in something that isn't going to work. And then add things, test in individual things to it. So add a different question type or different question types to that chapter, or add different math textbooks. And once you have multiple question types within math, expand to another, and multiple textbooks within math, expand to another category. You want to nail what it is you're doing. Right? And keeping it lean or doing a minimum viable product is not just about efficiency. Having too many features can be the reason why your product fails in the first place. What actually matters to your customer is buried in a huge list of features, and so people aren't interested, right? People tune out. And if you had just built that one feature that resonates highly with them, they might be super engaged. They might become fans of what you do because you do exactly what they need. So again, in product development, you want to build as little as possible to resonate with people. And you might have a lot of features you eventually want to test in. Fine. I'm not saying don't end up with a lot of features, although you have to be careful, but test them in one at a time. And that way you actually can make sure that you're building on something people want to use in the first place rather than something that people opt out of. So the core activities is the building that MVP and then getting user feedback. So you've nailed this phase if you have people who love your product. There's different ways to do this. There's like net, especially for services, I find they love net promoter scores, but also for products and other things, software as a service, net promoter score. Would you recommend it to a friend? And usually I think on the scale, like a 7 or higher is considered a good response. The book Growth Hacking had a question that I think was like, how upset would you be if this disappeared tomorrow? As an interesting way of getting at the need. Like if they're not that upset if it disappeared tomorrow, then they don't really need the product. So phase 4, the phase entrepreneurs both desire and fear. It's marketing and sales. So they desire it. Most people want to make money. They want to have a product that makes money. And when they're starting a company, they envision like, oh, this is so awesome. I think it's awesome. Other people are going to think it's awesome. They're going to buy it and I'm going to feel good about myself. Now, as an entrepreneur, has that actually worked out for you? So for a few small cases, often for people who have done good market research ahead of time, whether informally or they lucked into it or they had a good business mentor, maybe that works out. But for most people, they launch and it's crickets and it feels terrible and they're afraid, especially if you are a craftsman, right? If you started a business because you're good at creating a particular product or service, then you didn't start that business because you're good at marketing and sales. And so this often is a point of awkwardness. Now, I'm going to make things a little bit easier for you. I heartily agree with Alex Hormozi, $100 million offers. He says that you only need to be a good salesman if your offer sucks, right? Or if you're not in a good market. And so he gives the example of if you are in a market, if you're selling toilet paper during COVID, when people were running on the stores, if you had toilet paper, you were sold out. And so being in a, starving market trumps everything. You don't really need to work on sales. You just need to have the product. And that's kind of how I think a lot of entrepreneurs think their product will be, and it so isn't. Most people will be selling in an average market. You just want to make sure you're not in a shrinking market. And then Alex Hormozi says the next thing you need is an offer that resonates. So if you've actually done your market research phase with the criteria that I said, that you can talk to someone specifically from your audience and have an offer that really resonates to the level they'll take action, not, oh yeah, cool, then you're well positioned. And you only really, according to Alex Hormozi, need to work on your sales and marketing techniques if you're not in a thirsty market and you really don't have a standout offer. So the good news, if you're afraid of marketing sales, is that actually you probably don't need to work on this as much as you think. The bad news is you often need to go phase 2 with the market research and actually be able to develop a compelling offer. But once you do that, the sales part becomes much easier because you already know what people want and you're just giving them what they want. Doesn't that sound fantastic? So you're in this phase if you have a product people love to use. but you're not getting adoption of your product at scale. You basically need to scale that happy customer base. So when I'm saying these phases, I'm kind of listing off like one phase at a time. Often, due to practicalities, if you've already developed a product and you're, selling it, you may be kind of in this phase. Chances are you may be even in phase 5 too. You might be all over the place. You might have to do things. But what you should focus on is the earliest phase you haven't nailed. So you could be selling a product. You could even have some people that like it. But like if you don't even know why you're doing it and you hate your work, you should probably craft a vision that compels you. And I think a lot of people, for instance, will put that kind of going back to the drawing board off because they're like, what if I have to drop my company? Oh my goodness, I can't do that. Well, no matter what your company is, knowing who you are, even if your company doesn't initially align with that, you can figure out how to integrate more of your vision piece by piece into that company. You don't have to quit if you discover that you are the yoga rock climber dude, and yet your passion is pet care. Your actual vision is pet care, right? You could say, like, how could I bring, like, what do I love about pets? And how can I bring more of that into my my business model? Maybe I get like cute pictures of like people rock climbing with a little doggy in a pouch or something. I don't know. But you can find ways for those to overlap. And then as you engage more of your own personal excitement and vision, you will find that your communications, your marketing, your sales, your product becomes more authentic and people want it more. So that is an example of if you are in multiple phases, focusing on the earlier phase, and don't be afraid to do it. It's not like you have to drop everything. You just want to do the work to nail the phase you're in. And it's the same thing with market research, right? If you have a product and some people buy it, but most people are pretty lukewarm, the offer doesn't resonate with people, you're basically, this, you've skipped phase 2. If you're running a lot of ads and just burning through money and not getting anybody to buy your product, there's a good chance that you don't know what to write on your ad and you don't know what to write on your landing page because you haven't done the market research you need to do. All right. And so you're worried about, all right, if I go back and do the market research, what if I found people don't want that product? That could be, right? And if that is actually true, you are better served knowing that now rather than, chasing your tail and wasting a lot of money on ads, or wasting a lot of time networking or cold calling or, finding leads, whatever it is, you're better off there. But even so, even if you don't have the perfect ideal product that you want, you're still better off understanding the market and being able to speak to them a little bit better. You might improve your product a little bit more. You might improve your offer a little bit more, get a few more customers, right? So it's not all or nothing, but it's always worth it to go back and nail a phase if you haven't nailed it. So phase 4, you're in it if you can't scale. And if you can't scale, but you have nailed the other 3 things, your problem is marketing. I just putting the caveat here, and the long roundabout discussion is if you can't scale, it could be one of the earlier phases too if you haven't nailed it. Pay attention to that criteria, do the work to nail it. So the core activities in this are marketing and sales. Those are 2 different things. And so really for me, sales is taking someone who's interested in buying and closing the deal, right? That's sales. Marketing is telling your story so people are interested so that when they do buy, they know where to look. You've already captured their attention, right? And those are very different things. So marketing would look more like free materials, videos, YouTube videos, posts online, etc. You can also buy out ads for brand recognition. But if you're a smaller starting out company, chances are you're not doing that. That's something big companies that already have a giant budget will do, is like put out ads just for marketing. So if you're a small company, you probably want to do that with free value offers like lead magnets. So get someone to your page to access a recorded webinar or download a helpful white sheet or tool, and then they have to sign up for your email list. And then your email list, you nurture and you're marketing a lot to your email list with a few offers here and there to people who are ready to buy, etc. And you kind of create that funnel from marketing to sales. All right, that's an example of that. Sales would look a little bit more like targeted ads. So people are searching not just for the topic, but they're searching with intent to buy, which is another subject. But they're searching with intent to buy. You take out an ad there and you sell it. Or again, you have a physical location with an ad in a downtown where people are looking to buy stuff. So a lot of what I do, for example, is marketing. I'm helping you with your business. And because I'm helping you with your business, hopefully I am top of mind when you need someone to help you implement, for instance, these strategies, when you need someone to help you outline your specific core activities for your business and help you keep on track and reflect and iterate on that and know when you've nailed it and move on to the next phase. So core activities are marketing, selling. That's either taking out ads or specifically calling people and drumming up leads yourself. So also asking for referrals. That is, if you actually have done phase 3 and there are people who love your product, go to them, ask them if they've shared it, have promotional campaigns to help people share your product or service, or ask for referrals. Also, a golden opportunity, and again, just another way, if you've done these phases and nailed each one, that the earlier ones make the next ones easier. You have nailed this phase if you're scaling, and basically if you're scaling to the point where you need to hire. And some people might stop there if they want to be solopreneurs, or some people might want to take over the world and grow their business. So that leads us to phase 5. Phase 5, the phase you try and get other people to do because it's boring. So this is building your company. This is all of the aspects of building your company, from incorporating to finances to hiring and training and selling. And a lot of entrepreneurs want to foist this off. And some of this you really can, some of it less so. So you are in this phase if to some extent, if you have a business, right? If you actually incorporate, I would generally recommend, for example, for people to do their market research and product development without creating a company, if at all possible, because they don't need to create a financial structure. They don't need to, deal with all the paperwork and the accounting and the expenses when they're testing out their product. Now, somewhere in phase 3, where you actually have people buying your product, you probably do need that. You're in this phase if basically you need a separate bank account for your business, and you need to do finances and accounting for your business. And you're certainly in that phase, for instance, if you hire other people, actually hire other people, not just occasionally pay contractors, etc. So the core activities of this phase, there's a lot. There really isn't one core activity, but the core activity is creating systems. And what a lot of people do is they don't want to think about this, and they want to have someone else create systems. That's okay for some financing. Usually you still have to participate in logging your expenses and income to some degree, right? But you want to create that system. If there is legal issues or accountability, you want to get that insurance so that system is taken care of. And certainly if you are hiring, then there's all sorts of systems you need to think about. You need to think about your hiring processes and your training processes. You need to think about your evaluation and firing processes, etc. A temptation for, as some of you who have been successful and are very busy, is all right, I'll hire a COO to do those operations. Well, a COO won't necessarily have the same vision, especially if you haven't articulated it, especially if you haven't thought about how you're going to find people who have the same vision and train it. And so basically, the ignoring these systems and trying to outsource them will result in worse systems, or at least unaligned systems. So you're in this phase if you at least have to have a separate bank account and legal entity, and you might just be doing it for yourself, but you are heavy in this phase and really need to focus on this phase if you are hiring and expanding, because that's where it hits people the most. And you have nailed this phase if no one's suing you and you're not getting fined for taxes, if you're a solopreneur, I guess, right? You've nailed this phase if you can minimize the amount of time you spend on those things, maximize the amount of time you have on developing new products or improving your existing products, etc., doing the things that bring the most value to the business. If you're hiring, then you are nailing this phase if you are onboarding people and you see your vision reflected in them. That is a huge success. Thank you for making it this far. This is a longer video than I typically do. I would love to hear your comments and questions. I have one final tip for how to use this, but first, if this video has been helpful, please like and subscribe. That way you can get more in-depth videos, for instance, on the individual phases. Some of those will be coming up soon. You can follow me as I create my own company, and I have a playlist about going through that process from conception to market research, etc. So I am currently in it with you right now. I'm so excited by that. So subscribe and you get more of these videos, and like the videos. It helps other entrepreneurs find this content and stop spinning their wheels so they can have the impact that they want to have on their customers. So my one final tip for using this is you now have a phase to focus on and a core activity for that phase. Block out time every day to focus on that phase. And it might take time. It is better to start blocking out 10 minutes and just do 10 minutes more of that a day than never to do it. But ideally, as you make it a habit to do the core activity at a particular time, you can expand that time. You really want to be focusing on that activity as much as you can until you nail it. You may have jumped ahead to phase 4 and 5 and be entangled with a ton of things and realize you don't even know why you're doing what you're doing. And it might be hard to go back to phase 1, but it will save you time in the long run, and it will be a lot less painful. A lot of the reason why you're encountering the problems you are at phases 4 and 5 is because phases 1, 2, and 3 have not been nailed. So schedule time regularly. Start small if you have to, and then expand the time. Make it a habit. As I always say, make big changes, one small habit at a time.